Okay, and we are live. This is Doc Eddie's Big Fight Politics, and we have a special guest today who's been on the road, Tom Zoellner. He's a author, and he writes about lots of stuff, but he's also written some very trenchant articles about the state of the Democratic Party and politics. And, we're going to talk today about the failures of the 24 campaign and what the Democrats can do in the future to correct those things and hopefully win an election. Tom?
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you, Eddie. And let me just say that everyone is now rushing in to give their own verdicts on what went wrong. And the caveat is, of course, with every analyst, it's going to be, well, what went wrong is the thing that I've been trying to tell you all this time. And it went wrong. So there's some ego and some personal interest inevitably going to be bound up in some of these after action reports. The Kamala Harris's defeat was multi-causal. There was no one thing that sunk her, that sunk Tim Walz. There was no overriding factor that propelled Donald Trump to victory. It was obviously a constellation of events. In my view, though, I want to focus on something that I witnessed up close and personal, which was a slipshod effort to get out the vote in rural America. And
Well, this isn't the first election that happened. I mean, that's been going on for a while, hasn't it?
oh yeah, well, Democratic Party neglect of farm and ranch country is a story that's goes back to Bill Clinton's second term, and it accelerated under Obama, and it's only gotten worse. And so there was an effort on the part of a tactical effort on the part of Kamala Harris's headquarters to try and flood the zone and Pennsylvania in particular. Yeah, oh, how's the audio there?
Yeah, it's still trying to adjust. You're not echo.
Okay, I'll continue. The part of it that I saw was in Arizona, rural Arizona. I went out to, well, first of all, I expressed interest in trying to organize this county without a functioning Democratic Party as far back as the spring of 2024, and got nothing but resistance, unreturned phone calls, a lot of misdirection from the state Democratic Party. And I was about ready to just quit. And then I was contacted by a legislative candidate who said, "Come on over. We're going to go knock on doors." And I thought, "Great, finally, we're going to get somewhere." I drove out to La Paz County, where this is Parker, Arizona, on the Colorado River, and I was one of five people in this entire county in this election that's supposedly a bulwark against fascism. And here we are, just a tiny amount of volunteers, absolutely no support from the National Democratic Party, very little interest in regional Democrats doing anything in this crucial election weekend to get out the vote. And of course, Trump cruised to victory in rural Arizona by about 10 points. Yeah, it was a blowout there, and he won Arizona by 6 points. But for gosh sakes, some year-round organization would have made a huge difference at very little cost compared to the $1.5 billion that was spent on this campaign. And I just failed to see the efficacy of blanketing the television airwaves, the radio airwaves with these broadcast ads, which are so incredibly repetitive, which I don't think really move interest. They don't really introduce the candidate to uninformed voters. My crusade here, which I acknowledge is a longstanding grievance with the Democrats, is you need to invest in a 365-day-a-year presence in these places. Encourage candidates to run for office. Develop a bench. Get a real network of precinct committee persons going. And don't just throw these pop-up offices and these parachute in strike teams when it comes time for the election. People don't know who you are. People have no sense that the Democrats really are listening to them. Of course, everyone professed surprise that the Latino vote for Trump, particularly the male Latino vote, which I've seen numbers as high as 61%, turned for a virulently anti-immigration candidate with a history of racism. And maybe had we been listening to people, really listening to people, this wouldn't have been such a great surprise that there was this groundswell of impatience with where the Democratic Party has gone in terms of bending a little too far in the direction of woke ideology,
I call
failing,
it grievance politics.
yeah, identity grievance politics, failing to understand that even though a reasonably efficient exchange of goods and labor at the border actually creates a lot of economic prosperity. And even though, yes, statistics show that native born Americans commit crimes at much higher rates than immigrants, these are true, these are facts. But the perception, which we were losing control of, was that the relatively disorderly situation on the border was a big electoral drain. The mood of the country has really turned on this. And it may not be fair, it may not be right, but Democrats failed to meet that perception with a message.
But I think they failed on the optics on that because I travel down Denver frequently, and our border has been militarized. I mean, this like going from Checkpoint Charlie to
No question. No question. Astonishing sums of money are spent on this futile mission to quote unquote secure the border. Well, good luck on that. What really is causing the migration patterns are the demand for labor up here and the political disorder in Central America and the southern
which we
part of Mexico.
created.
Sorry?
And we created.
Which we created. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole thing is unjust. I mean, let's be clear about that. And this is a moment of shame for the United States that our traditional welcoming mat has been yanked back. Our sense of compassion for those who are fleeing violence and political repression, our hearts have grown quite cold on this. American conservative Christianity ought to be embarrassed with the way that it is posturing itself on this question. I'll say a hosanna on the part of my liberal Christian friends who do understand this to be, in a sense, a gospel call for material relief and mercy. But your average MAGA church doesn't see it that way. Anyway, all this is to say, I do understand the reasons why people, average voters, particularly in rural parts of the country, feel completely abandoned by the Democrats and feel like we've got nothing to say to them.
I mean, basically, we haven't copied in what, 3 decades?
Yeah, and an argument that I'm going to make for the Arizona Republic in an op-ed, hopefully to run soon, is that if the Democrats can learn to speak rural, pick up that language, which has become a foreign language to them, this is going to have actually spillover effects into the cities. It's not just being able to put on a cowboy hat and affect a certain twang.
Yeah, let's go into that.
Well, many newcomers to Arizona move there, not just for the job opportunities, not just for the cheap cost of living and the low taxes, but also to fulfill a certain personal image of living in the wide open spaces and of a kind of a romantic vision of the past, which itself is not always that great, but nevertheless, they fancy themselves as being ranchers without the cattle, living in detached ranch homes, perhaps with some knockoff Remingtons in the living room, but with an affinity for that kind of soft libertarianism that they perceive as being the political way. I'm speaking here about Arizona specifically. Can Democrats learn to pick and choose those issues which play into that libertarian idea, which really do focus on personal liberty, about freedom, learning to speak the language of faith, understanding that not everyone who goes to church is some kind of weird freak, understanding that community traditions are important. This isn't an across the board indictment of every Democrat. This is saying that plugging back into this idea, I think, can not just have some benefits in that those areas where we're losing legislative seats that are possibly winnable, but also some aesthetic spillover into those suburbs where the votes are rich and the votes are gettable. Hello, Ken.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Doc.
YouTube, Matt. Ken, just to cut you off, we've been talking, or actually, Tom has been talking about the failures of the last campaign and what laying out what they were and starting to come up with things they can do about it.
Doc, I'm sorry to say it, but I'm getting a really bad echo from you. Is there something about my settings I can change? Tom, are you hearing that?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
It's echoing pretty bad.
Oh, okay. Then I'm sorry. Could you maybe repeat the question?
I was just filling you in on where we were. D failures in the 2024 campaign, and Tom's laying out a plan to fix it.
Yeah, and I think he's absolutely right. When it and not only with Arizona, I live in North Carolina, which is a state which unfortunately went slightly red again this time. And I think the Democrats aren't speaking the language or sharing the concerns. And to be honest with you, I think part of the reason for the loss was the heavy focus on abortion as kind of the primary issue. Because I think, and I understand why the Democrats got this impression, they did well in the midterms, and like that was primarily with abortion as an issue, I think because that Supreme Court decision was kind of recent and fresh. And it's also true that a significant majority of Americans favor legal access to abortion, a larger percentage. At the same time, though, I'm not convinced that is the primary voting issue for a lot of people, and I think you could make a legitimate argument that most of the people who consider that their primary voting issue, they're already voting Democrat. With North Carolina being a battleground state, even a couple of weeks before the election, I was watching the Harris ads, and they are really focusing heavily on abortion to the point of neglecting some of the other issues. And I kind of feel like that didn't get a lot of traction, to be honest with you. Like I said, I'm sure it's a very powerful and important issue to a group of people, but I think you could make the point that we're voting for Harris. And it is a majority of Americans, but it's just not the primary voting issue. I think the economic issues trump that, even for a lot of people who it was the message was reading, is what was playing.
Well, Tom, can you add something on that?
Well, I think you're right, Ken. There was champagne corks popping in the Democratic National Committee offices when the Dobbs ruling came down, not because of any joy at that ruling, the substance of the ruling, but rather at the politics, the dividends that we're gonna roll in. All you had to do was just go on out there to some of those suburbs and some of the female voters and point to the Republicans and say, "Look at that! Do you want that?" And It did not work. Trump was able to make in my view, a wholly specious case, but nevertheless an effective one that, well, all I've done is just put it back to the states and you don't need to worry and you'll still be able to have reproductive health, et cetera, et cetera. But and for those voters who should they or some relatives find themselves in that situation are going to be affluent enough to travel across state lines, and I think they just figured, well, this isn't dire enough for me to care about. I just have been angry about my groceries.
Yeah.
Um,
I think there was some legitimate skepticism from people, even from people who are in favor of abortion access. There was some skepticism whether the Democrats could do anything about it. People aren't stupid, and they know it's a Supreme Court issue. They know you're not going to change the makeup of the Supreme Court in one term. I just don't think it got a lot of traction when it came to actually make the final decision in the voter booth.
I think that people sort of split their vote on this, because look, these amendments to the Constitution all passed in places that then turned around and voted for Trump. So they managed to silo those views, and, not give the Democrats any, oh God, that's what I'm looking for. Anyway, the Democrats didn't get any credit.
Yep, agreed. But I think Tom makes a great point, not just on the abortion issue, but on a lot of issues. They're not relating to the rural population. They're not relating to people who economic issues are their primary concern. And there are a lot of us, I think that the right-wing arguments, criticisms, painting everything as horrible was way overdone. That wasn't fact-based. But the left didn't counter that well and never showed the kind of focus on it. I think that would have impressed the swing voters, those people in the middle, I guess. At least not in North Carolina. I can't speak to all the states.
Ken, before you came on, I was kind of teeing off on a terrible effort by the Arizona Democratic Party to really move the needle outside of the big cities. And I was a part of a canvassing effort in a rural county, actually Arizona's smallest population county, that was just a study in pathos. And I'm wondering what you saw there in North Carolina.
I came on this podcast, and I admitted even then I was probably allowing myself to be lulled into a false sense of optimism. I did not see as much Trump optimism as I did in 2016 or in 2020. I think there were a lot of people that voted for him this time who weren't as happy with their vote. To be honest with you, there wasn't the banners, the signs. You'd see them occasionally, but it wasn't nearly the proliferation or the depth of enthusiasm for them. And plus, we had a Republican gubernatorial candidate who was an absolute dumpster fire. This is the guy that made the news for claiming to be he wanted slavery brought back.
Mark Robinson.
Yeah, Mark Robinson, exactly. Yeah. And I think the Democratic Party may have posted a little bit here in North Carolina because, the Democratic governor candidate went into it with like a 15% margin. It was huge. There was never any doubt. And I think a lot of other Democrats, I'll fess up, I was guilty of this. I thought Mark Robinson was so bad that it was going to suppress Republican turnout. But what the numbers ended up showing was an awful lot of people voted for Democrat Josh Stein for governor and for Trump as president. I have a hard time getting my head around that, but the numbers don't lie, and that's what happened.
We saw the same thing in Arizona because Ruben Gallego, I was at a meeting like a week before when Bill Clinton showed up, and there's all the insiders that gave a lot of money. So I got invited to that. And it's like their internal poll numbers showed them winning by 15 or more points, and it turned out to be way close. And and again, the people voted for Lego, and then turned around and voted for Trump.
Yeah. That's somebody that's voting economy. That's all I can think of is somebody that really believes Trump can do something about inflation and lower gas prices.
Well, they're gonna get what they asked for, and I've seen some arguments that instead of attempting to maybe stand in the way of some of these bad ideas, that the Democrats should somebody just stand out of the way and let it happen.
I actually agree with that.
I'm not sure how I feel about it.
Well, I mean, it's like they're playing into the Democratic. We want to help you and keep you suffering and feel pain. I disagree. This is the time that you need to make them suffer for the next 2 years. I know it sounds cruel, but being from Eastern Kentucky, it's going to hit the people that I grew up around the most, and they voted most for Trump.
I have been cautioning my left-wing friends. They're really looking forward to the time when Trump supporters regret their vote.
I don't think they ever will.
I don't think they ever will either. And I don't think no matter how bad the economy gets, I mean, that demographic that voted for him will clearly suffer the worst, I think, in what's coming. The problem is they can always return to their media bubble, and they're always going to be told that it's okay. It's not that bad. Things are good, and it's all the Democrats' fault and the media's fault.
It's like in Hillary's campaign, she didn't go to Wisconsin, and that was a big thing that caused her to fail. This campaign, Kamala didn't get on Bro podcast, so that was a big fail. It's like we're not reaching out in places that get to those people and say, this is what we stand for. I mean, the only politician I see really doing that is Pete.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be running for governor in Michigan as soon as the election comes around. That's blatantly obvious.
Well, gentlemen, success has 1,000 parents, right? And failure is an orphan. So,
how about if we go ahead now? Ken and I will work audio issues. Tom, if you would, I'd like to come back.
yeah, please do. But at that point, my op-ed hopefully will have run, and
When does that come out?
I just hit the send button today. I was waiting on of course, the dilatory Arizona Democratic Party to offer some comment, and I got 3 sentences of stuff I don't agree with, but whatever.
Okay, well then we will definitely come back about as far as the what your take on this. We need there's a lot more we can explore, and we apologize for our audio issues. It's not quite sure because we haven't had this before, but we will correct that for the people that are online now. Tom is going to come back. We're going to relitigate all of it and elucidate and expand on this. Because what's coming up is going to be important. One of the issues that just came up if you tuned in is how much do you, the people that voted for Trump have to suffer? I'm from this stuff. If you want to get a mule, you take a 2x4 and smack him over the head. If you have to, you do it twice. And I think this time we need a 2x4.
As they say in Kentucky.
Actually,
All right, gentlemen. Good as always to see you.
okay, we will come back soon.
All right, very good. Take care.
Yeah,
Nice talking to you, Tom.
Tom,
Likewise.
thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.